So as we are coming back and are back, it is my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker. And as I've mentioned throughout the event, Kalyn is a good friend of mine and have known her for many years, but I am going to do the honors of reading her bio to you all. And I'm sure you can all find it in your packets as well. So just follow along or just listen as I read about our Miss Kalyn Fahie. I got it right, Kalyn. I got it right. Okay. Okay. Kalyn Fahie is a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault and an advocate who works towards ending domestic and sexual violence. Kalyn founded the nonprofit organization Sisters Acquiring Financial Empowerment, SAFE. I remember that, Kalyn, in April 2006. Kalyn is a sought after national speaker for local, state, and national conferences. Kalyn presented with a panel of experts regarding U.S. advocacy and community engagement for survivors at the second annual World Conference of Women's Shelters. In October 2013, she was featured in an article on domestic violence written by the White House and Essence magazine. Kalyn Fahie and Sisters Acquiring Financial Empowerment have received multiple honors and awards, including the 2009 National Network to End Domestic Violence Spirit of Advocacy Award. Currently, Kalyn Fahie is the Training and Technical Assistance Manager for Ujima, Inc., the National Center on Violence Against Women in the Black Community. Kalyn is currently she's working too. Kalyn is currently writing her memoir, which is scheduled to be released in 2024. That is so awesome. And we'd like to welcome you, Kalyn. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this great event, and having your participation will only further that. So welcome, and the space is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for being here today and coming back from the break. I appreciate you. So I will get started. I'll skip over this. Thank you for reading my bio already. Tell you a little bit about Ujima as we get started. So the mission of Ujima is the National Center on Violence Against Women in the Black community. Our mission is to mobilize the community to respond to and end domestic, sexual, and community violence in the Black community. We actualize this mission through research, public awareness, community engagement, and resource development. So I'll talk a little bit about what does all of that mean. And I will also I do tend to talk fast, so I will try to talk slower for our interpreters, which are greatly appreciated. Thank you for your work. So one of our main tenets is Sankofa. So there must be movement and new learning as time passes. And so in this, we understand the impact of historical violence against Black women and Black communities, and this provides context for the disparities and the disproportionalities of the social ills that we experience today. Ujima serves as a resource for survivors of violence, for advocates and service providers, as well as the community at large. But some of the services that we provide include education and outreach, training and technical assistance, resource development, and we are also creating research. So we have a team of researchers that we're working with. We are working very diligently to create products, Black papers that you may know as white papers, and other bodies of research that is created by us and for others to utilize in their work. This is our TA team. So we have a great team of that are working around these issues. and I'm a member of the training and technical assistance team. So I'm here today actually to talk about our partnerships in regards to the building the capacity, or the BCP program, the initiative that we're doing. And part of the tenets of this was some of the goals. One was to strengthen the capacity of culturally specific organizations developed by and for the Black community, and to help increase their capacity in managing federal, state, local grant awards. We want to implement these programs to help successfully implement culturally specific programs that would directly provide service to survivors. We want to address long-term inequities resulting in the desperate impact of COVID-19 and the public health and economic pandemic that the Black community experienced and is currently experiencing, to promote strategic partnership development and collaboration in responding to emerging and ongoing public health concerns for Black victims and survivors. So some of the other highlights of this grant is that we awarded 20 grantees nationally, $275,000 over the course of a 2.5-year grant year. We supported many of these grantees had never received funding before to support the programming that happened in their community. The grant, it was a reimbursing grant. So we realized that a lot of our grantees did not have the upfront capital to be reimbursed. So we worked very hard to be able to, a lot of these things are completely unprecedented. So we got them $10,000 in working capital to start them off in the grant process. Some of the benefits of being one of our grantees is that they have access to open office hours with us, one-on-one meeting sessions with our training team to help build their capacity. We provide training opportunities for the grantees. We also keep in touch with them with phone call, emails, and we're also doing a national convening in October. It's really exciting. It's going to be held in Washington, D.C., and this is just for all of the resource centers. So this is not just Ujima, but all of the other culturally specific resource centers are coming together with their grantees in October. And it's over the course of 3 days, it's going to be focused on providing leadership development and other technical skills to support grantees. We will be bringing our grantees together again. Potentially, we're looking at December with just the executive directors really focusing on leadership development. So we wanted to, in our way of culturally specifically supporting, we wanted to lead an opportunity to give the money so that they could increase their infrastructure, so they could hire staff, so they could get supplies and do the things that they needed to directly support survivors. But we also wanted to make sure that the capacity was there so that they could sustain beyond this grant period. So these are just a list of some of the training topics that we are providing directly to the programs that we are supporting. Again, we're really focused on a variety of skills from culturally specific, how to provide culturally specific services to Black survivors, to budgeting, accounting, etc. And this is a list of other topics that we're also providing during this time that we have them, this 2.5 years. You see, it's a lot of topics. So we also provide the technical assistance. Sometimes people don't know what is technical assistance. So technical assistance, you know what training is, but technical assistance it's how do you actually implement it? And so that's where we will work directly with the program, with the executive director, with the team to brainstorm practical steps. How do you go from idea to implementation? How do you expand? How do you succession plan? How do you grant write? How do you write a grant? So these are the things that we would actually more hands-on support would be where technical assistance comes to play. And so these are a list of some of the other areas that technical assistance we might help with: board development, communications, marketing plans, developing strategic partnerships, etc. And so how we do this, we can actually go to the location to one of our grantees and provide site visits. We can also do virtual visits, and then we have open office hours. I will say that this is what we're doing for our grantees. We have office hours on Thursday, but on Tuesday, we open office hours to anyone in the community that also wants support from Ujima in regards to these areas, culturally specific support. We are available, and you can actually look at our website, ujimacommunity.org, and fill out a form to request technical assistance from us that is free of charge. Let's talk a little bit about what is culturally specific services. So culture actually really makes the difference. A Black-led program may understand that something like punitive housing rules might not permit family or visitors or have an early curfew. This might cause a trauma to Black survivors. And it doesn't necessarily provide the space for survivors to make their own decisions. Culture makes a difference in regards to how we greet each other, what type of food we might have. We have our own language, we have our own way of expressing ourselves, what we value in regards to economics. So our economic justice initiatives should also be culturally inclusive and culturally specific, as well as we start to develop these things. So it's important, even in the funding, as we plan this funding opportunity, that we did it in a culturally specific way. We offered pop-up shops, pop-up Q&A sessions. We, how we marketed, how we communicated, how we presented the material was for in a culturally specific way. So it's important every step of the way. So framing services we have a lot of conversation around framing services through a trauma-informed, culturally specific lens. So looking at cultural awareness, diversity, inclusion, responsiveness, and humility are all areas that we talk about, that we try to emulate as well in our work, and that we encourage our partners to do the same. So let's talk about Black culture being the foundation, and what does it mean to be a culturally specific program? So this means that you have intentionally centered the needs, realities, experiences, and challenges of survivors within the Black community. Your programs are rooted in Black culture and in the nuances and intersectionalities of Blackness. And although you have the ability to serve, quote unquote, everyone, you have specifically conceptualized, designed, and implemented programs that are rooted in serving and supporting Black survivors. And that is what we mean by for us, by us, and with us. Sometimes organizations might have a Black leader, but that doesn't mean that the organization meets this criteria and that they are a culturally specific organization, or even that they strive to be that. This is a question that you can answer in the chat. We're going to open up the end for questions and answers, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there. What are some strategies that are considered standard practice but not culturally specific that might not benefit Black survivors? Oppressed groups are frequently placed in the situation of being listed only if we frame our ideas in the language that is familiar to and comfortable for a dominant group. This requirement often changes the meaning of our ideas and works to elevate the ideas of dominant groups. Something for us to consider. Culturally specific services are unique indeed. So we want to contextualize our experience. We definitely want to look at the and reduce the good survivor, bad survivor narrative. We want to look at police interactions. What does systems involved mean? We want to explore the perception about Black community and Black women, accessibility, and language access. Normalizing how we move through the world, being proud of how we move through the world, owning it, our language, our dialect, being person-centered versus outcome-centered, and incorporating, and as we plan our programs and as we do programs, think about how we incorporate family, which is so important in our community. Another important, I know it was mentioned earlier, I know Levon was talking about storytelling and the importance of storytelling, but it's so important in our communities to think about the stories and how we tell our organization story, how we tell our individual stories, and how we hold the stories of others. We use stories to communicate to the community, partners, funders, donors, stakeholders. It can generate action. It can tell who, what, why, when, and where, the importance of the work that we're doing. Why is it important? Who are we talking to? And as we're telling the stories, think about and be flexible with the length, tone, and focus change according to your audience. But storytelling is a key to how we communicate, how we connect with each other. And so I just wanted to talk about that briefly. As we elevate culture and community, we talk about safety and what do we believe that looks like in our communities? Respect. How do we show respect to ourselves, our coworkers, and the survivors that we work with? How do we define community? How do we define the partners who are the partners that we want to work with? And what does access mean? And what does it look like to us? So now I am going to pull in, we have a lot of questions. We have Black skeptics with us today, which is one of the grantees, one of Ujima's grantees, and we're gonna have a conversation with them. I'm really excited about that. Are we able to bring them to the front? How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I am great. I am great.
Hey there. Good afternoon.
Hello, hello. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to allow you all to introduce yourself and to very briefly talk about what is about the organization.
Okay, well, I will start us off. My name is Jessica Robinson. I am the project director for the Women's Leadership Project, which is under the umbrella of Black Skeptics. The Women's Leadership Project and Black Skeptics itself, we have numerous things that fall under there, but specifically the Women's Leadership Project deals with Black girls, gender expansive youth, Black women and girls who experience sexual violence, victim survivors in a hyper-segregated communities. We work within the school systems, we have rallies, we have institutes, all for youth and young adults who are of color and that want to come and become empowered. We have an awesome internship organization. Ashanti Polk will speak on that. She's one of our interns that's represented here. And I could go on, but I am the director and I'm very proud to be here with Tamari Cook and Ashanti, who will introduce themselves.
Hi, I am Tamari Cook. I am the program manager for the Women's Leadership Project. And although I haven't been with WLP and Black Skeptics for very long, I have a long and extensive history working with primarily African American Black-led organizations, nonprofit organizations. And that just, it does something, it makes my heart happy about the work that I've been able to do in African American communities, focusing on Black girls, Black women, and also African American families and underserved communities. Specifically with WLP, I can just speak to Kalyn, you talked about being a part of the technical assistance team and how hands-on they are with the agencies. And I just want to give you guys a shout out really quickly before we go into any of the other questions to say we are so appreciative of some of the ways that you guys actually support the agencies when there are questions about how are we supposed to do this, the paperwork, the behind the scenes, how do we access the money, how do we do the reports, what are the requirements, just you guys being so responsive back to us. Even I know we're on the West Coast, you guys are on the East Coast. Even with that time lag, we're able to, whenever we have questions or need something, get with you guys and get responses. So we're really appreciative of that. And with that being said, before I take up too much time, I'll let Ashanti go ahead and introduce herself and the work that she does with WLP as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashanti Polk. This is my fifth year in WLP, Women's Leadership Project. I started off as our club president at King Drew Magnet High School in Compton, California, and made my way up to the now lead intern and also the youth advisor on staff with the Women's Leadership Project. I work solely with the youth. Like I said, as a staff member, I do meet monthly with the Women's Leadership Project staff to come up with different tools and different things to do. One of my favorite initiatives that we do is the Standing for Black Girls, where that's one. The other one is when we go into the schools and give presentations on some of the topics that were listed, such as domestic violence and things that are happening within our community, within South Los Angeles, because that's where we're based. So yeah, that's really what I do, work solely with the youth and work with the adults to help give that I get mentored by the adults to help mentor the youth, because a lot of them are still in high school or just coming into college. This is actually my 4th year in college. So I'm grateful and thankful to be able to be a mentor to the youth and to help them with this organization, because we do a lot. And like Ms. Jessica said, we could be here all day telling y'all what we do. But yeah, we definitely do a lot in the community, and I'm grateful to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you all for your introductions and your kind words about Ujima. I appreciate that. That actually segues us into our first question. First question is, want to speak specifically to regarding the ARP BCP grant that I was talking about earlier. You all are a grantee, which we're really happy about. I want you to talk a little bit about how does it create access for your organization, for the people that you work with, for maybe even other community partners that we're not aware of?
I can take that one, because part of it is a big part of what I do, which is the money, right? We actually have the money. And so it allowed, although WLP has been in existence since 2002, this is really the first time that our founder was able to bring on folk on staff to really be dedicated day in and day out in a paid salaried position, right? So that we are able to do the work, so that we're able to be consistently in the classrooms and not just as something that you do after work. Although our founder, Sakivu Hutchinson, Dr. Hutchinson, is working right now at her other job, right? So she has lots and lots of things going on, but it has allowed us to actually pay staff. It has allowed us to be able to, like you said before, to have the supplies, to be able to do things like the podcast on higher levels, to be able to pay our interns, right? So we're giving them the value of their intellect, right? We don't give things away for free. We don't expect our interns to work for free. So our interns have the ability to do publications, to do writing campaigns and things of that nature. And for their time, they are paid. We're able to go in and take lunches, something as simple as that, but it means a lot to our clubs, right? To be able to provide lunches and to take them to places, and for us to be able to do things. Just having that little bit of access, having that money it opens up such a bigger realm, because now you have folks that are dedicated with their time to be able to do the things that, we kind of would take for granted. Right? You want people to do the work. We want to have this type of programming in schools and on every campus. But if there isn't funding for the folks to do that, then that's not going to get done. Right? And so we are really, really appreciative of the grant and what it has allowed us to do. It also allows us to connect our teams with mental health resources, right? We have money that's set aside in our budget to do that. It lets us bring in subject matter experts and say, not just, can you come and speak to our young people, but can you come do a presentation for us, speak to our young people, and in turn, we can reimburse you for your time. Right? We can give you something, which is what is expected. But a lot of times, because this is seen as grassroots work, there isn't the funding to back up all of the pieces that need to be done.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add?
Tamara really hit it on the head. Definitely hiring staff with benefits and these things are very important in order to do the work, because you're going to be able to find, hopefully amongst your community, you have people who have the heart to do the work, and yet they don't have the time, because we are part of a community that marginalized. Even as we are there to help the community, we are marginalized. So we are still trying to put pieces together to come up with pay rent and make sure our insurance, our homes are taken care of too. So lots of times the work that we want to do, we can't put in that time, but with the grant from Ujima and the support, that allows the work to actually get done. And it just allows the work to get done. I literally have juggled working 40 hours plus and then doing my community activism as a secondary thing. So with the grant, I was able to combine that and just do my community activism all day. And that's something, I guess, what they call the American dream, when you're coming to work to do what you're passionate about. And I'm able to do that with Ujima. So
Most definitely. Thank you. All right, next question. What does it mean to do culturally specific work as the Black Skeptics Women of Leadership Project?
Well, I can start. One of the things that is unique about our culturally specific work, like Ujima, our staff is all Black women. So when we come to a school that's predominantly Black and brown students, we are coming with the experience, the pedagogy of that school. And that is just in itself, there's it's invaluable, because you don't have to waste time trying to explain or connect the cultures. You are just there. And so there's a vulnerability that the students can feel comfortable coming with and that we bring to the table. So we are also able to be survivors when we're speaking about intimate partner violence. Many of us on our staff are survivors, and we do not hesitate to share that. So coming to our community, and specifically those in our community that are Black and brown, and that we're dealing with high school students. Usually we only deal with high schools that are suffering as far as financially and they're academically, you know, on the lower levels, but who they kind of been dismissed in our community, in our city. They definitely have been dismissed. We are approaching those high schools and approaching that community, and it's specific. We are dealing with BIPOC youth and women.
Awesome. So can you talk more about the lens and the framing used by your organization, by Black Skeptics, Women of Leadership Project, to do your work? So your thought process around when you started, the thought process around how you do your work. So we want to hear more about that.
I can kind of jump in here. One of the things, and I know we have a question that's specific to this, but one of the things that we really focus on is the peer-to-peer education, and affirming our stories. That's really, really big. It's what drives us, the importance of uplifting the stories and the lived experiences of the Black girls that we are working with. And I say girls, but we're also dealing with gender expansive youth, non-binary youth, but primarily female identifying folk. But that is really the lens that we're coming through, saying that you matter. And we want to hear your stories. We appreciate your stories. We want to give you safe space to share your stories because they can be impactful with each other. And it's really about us being Black girl centered, and coming in with a humanist approach, saying, we don't care what your religious backgrounds are. We don't care, you know, what else you come with, but we as people can make changes. We as folks together can look at situations and say, hey, we are a leadership organization. What is the problem and how can we then address it? So we are giving our young people the skill set to know that they don't just have to sit back and watch things happen, right? We have letter writing campaigns right now to some of our civic leaders, including our mayor, Karen Bass, writing on behalf of Black girls and Black women, because we know that the rates of violence against us are skyrocketing in LA, and very little is being done about it. And so what we say to young people is, hey, this is an issue, what can we do about it? And so we have rallies, and we provide spaces in classroom or on school campuses for them to share their experiences, for them to be validated, and not just, like Jessica said, not just dismissed, like, oh, you know, it's Black girls, that's something that y'all deal with anyway, but really to give voice and to have them critically think about their relationships, for them to critically think about what it is to be a Black girl in this city, and for them then to be engaged civically, whether it is, like I said, with the writing campaigns, whether it is them coming into classrooms and teaching other students, but it is really about the young people being engaged, and we're just doing some of the scaffolding for them.
Thank you, Tamari. And I also want to go back to the founding. Dr. Hutchinson's not here today, but on her behalf, she founded the organization 20 years ago. And a part of the mission statement is using a Black feminist humanist curriculum with social justice lens, designed to empower young women of color, develop their own voices, self-identity, political agency, and healthy relationships, while promoting critical consciousness about and activism around sexual and domestic violence prevention, racial justice, gender justice, and LGBTQAI+ empowerment to prepare for college, careers, and community leadership. So that mouthful is a mission statement that was started 20 years ago. And when I tell you every piece of that puzzle comes together with Black Skeptics through art, through activism, through art activism, through storytelling, like Tamari said, we're out there doing it, and constantly bringing in more and more young people to join the ranks and fall in and do that work.
So I have another question that's not on the list, and that is in regards to your outreach. You're very successful in connecting with young people. How do you engage them for them to want to be a part of this process?
There are incentives, first of all, that like Tamari had mentioned, they are able to get paid for their intellectual property. So that is big. The young people, they're not playing when it comes to their coins. Don't get me wrong. That's a serious incentive, and they love coming on board behind that. And also our young people today, they want to be activists. Like they have a desire, even if they think it's a cool thing to be woke or it's a trend to be woke. So they have the questions already coming. Like, what can I do? What can I do to make a change? And so they already have that sparked in them because of who they are in this generation. I don't make any apologies for not being a part of the generation. We have intergenerational exchange amongst WLP. I don't try to listen to the music. I'm informed about the music that's there, but I'm not going to sit there and listen to today's rap music so I can relate to the generation. I have Ashanti, I have interns that we can collaborate and talk about it so that we can still be approachable by the youth. And so, and they to us. And then again, we're one of our flagship high school is King Drew Medical Magnet, like Ashanti graduated from. I too graduated from King Drew Medical Magnet 10 years ago. Tamari also graduated from there. And so once there's a relatable, anything that's relatable, even besides the color of our skin, that gives opportunity for youth to open up and to come on board. And I do want you, I'm calling you out, Ashanti, so that something I missed in there, you can add onto that, okay?
I was actually about to direct a question to her. What specifically brought you to the program when you first started?
I was actually about to answer that without you asking. So for me, not gonna lie, it was in high school. Dr. H usually brings food for everybody for the WLP. And I just so happened one day to just show up. And I was interested. I can't remember what it was. It was 4 years ago, but it was a specific topic we were talking about. And I love working in my community. I love leadership. So to have that opportunity to be in leadership and also talk about the issues that I felt like I couldn't talk outside of that space, that's what brought me to the Women's Leadership Project. And then also just Dr. H's energy. Like I told her this herself. I was like, I just used to see her walk around my campus, and I was like, I didn't know what she did. I didn't even know about WLP, but just, seeing her around campus, I said, that's who I want to be, in a relationship with. And so when I joined the organization, I was like, I made a great choice. She does a very great job of initiating things, and then she just lets the youth take off. A lot of other organizations, it's like, oh, we're doing this for you, but we're going to tell you how to do it, or we're going to tell you this is what you should do. And it's like, it's not really youth. You know what I mean? It's not really youth oriented. It's more so we're going to tell you what to do. This organization is literally youth led. Even with us having adult advisors and adult staff, it's literally youth led. They literally just give us the ideas, and they say all the time say yes. Of course, some things need to be regulated and, kind of like, okay, let's take a step back. But for the most part, we get yeses across the board, and it's just a great organization for youth. And yeah, it's a great leadership opportunity as well.
I think it's a good segue into asking this question that can better support some of the other advocates that are in this program listing now, to ask, how can we collectively do better to nurture youth leaders?
I like this question. I get asked this a lot. Definitely more engaging spaces, and more just holding more spaces for youth to express themselves freely without feeling like they're going to get criticized. Because a lot of youth don't express themselves because they're like, well, if I say this, how are they going to respond? Or there's no safe space to actually talk about what we're being asked to talk about. So just really being aware of every everybody in the room of kind of like where they come from. I know I've had to learn that while in this organization, like, because I'm outspoken and I'm ready to talk and I'm extroverted, but there's some people who are introverted who don't like talking and who are to themselves. So just kind of reading the room and kind of just holding spaces for everybody, not just for the introverted or the extroverted people, kind of making it inclusive for everybody.
Good tips. Thank you. My next question is, I want to pivot and talk about domestic violence specifically. So can you talk a little bit about how domestic violence is showing up for survivors within community, within your organization, within the people that you talk to and work with?
One of the things that I have noticed that's really disheartening is in the classroom, just with the peers. This is beyond any adults that come to our organization, because we do have a lot of adults that are with us that are survivors and do this work too. And more specifically in the classroom, once we have that rapport with the students, more times than not, a student will, and I'm talking about ninth graders, so we're talking about 13 and 14-year-olds, will describe in detail something that is classified as intimate partner violence, but they're just describing it as a date that they went on. I went on a date and I did this, and he said he wanted to do this, and I didn't really want to do that, but it happened. And they're describing it very normal. And the responses from their peers is very normal. There's not anybody in shock. There's not any, it's normalized. That's what I'm trying to say. The violence has been normalized amongst our youth as earlier, but this is specifically in a 14 and 13-year-old classroom. And so to acknowledge that this is not normal, and that you are a victim, and that you are in a safe space, and that we all, not all of us, but I know when I'm speaking as a victim survivor, we are survivors, and this is how we're telling our story, and we're inspiring that. As we educate, we find that we have a lot more victims who did not know that they were victims because they have normalized the behavior. And that has been something that's been very dear to me as I, deal with the ninth and the young people, and going into the middle schools. I'm even more curious to see how we're going to deal with those stories of normalizing the abuse, and understanding that even if we don't hear it about themselves, it'll say, my auntie, she got beat up, or this, and it's just a normal conversation. And to have the education there to say that this is not normal, that this is a problem, and this is and how we're going to solve it, and how we're going to empower you to help do this so we can not create this and perpetuate this behavior, is how we are attacking it in the classrooms. But that's been one of my big standout moments over the school year this last year.
I wanted to speak on that. One of the initiatives we are the task force. It changes every month. We did a task force late last year on domestic violence specifically, and we did a presentation, told them what domestic violence was, what to look for, what are the symptoms, not the symptoms, but like what to look for. And sometimes no one shows signs of domestic violence. So we basically just did a presentation on domestic violence, saying like what to look for and how to be able to help. Because like Ms. Jessica said, especially at my high school, King Drew, like it's prevalent there, and a lot of them don't know that it's domestic violence. So I'm grateful for this organization to let them know, like, hey, this is what it is. That's not normal. Like, we're unnormalizing stuff that's normalized, basically, like letting them know, like, hey, that's not okay. That's not cool. That is not something you need to expect. So really just going into the classrooms, hosting safe spaces and community sessions where people can just express themselves, and we be the ones to let them know, like, hey, this is not okay. I feel like that definitely helps people to be able to have, like I was saying in the last question, having spaces where people can express themselves and knowing that it's okay. it's okay to express yourself and it's okay to seek help. And we also give resources to domestic violence survivors. So yeah.
That's awesome. I
Oh, can I, before you
Yeah.
move forward, Kalyn, I'm sorry. Just even tomorrow evening, one of the things that we are doing is we are partnering with Sacramento State and California Department of Public Health, and we are hosting a listening session about how to strategies to prevent violence, particularly sexual violence in our communities. So we, like Ashanti said, hold space for folks to share their ideas. It's not just us coming in and saying, hey, these are the warning signs, although that is very important work that we're doing in classrooms because folks don't know what the warning signs are. Just last week, a girl was talking about how she thought it was cute that her boyfriend wanted to make sure that she always had her location on her phone so that he could, you know, track her because he cares so much, right? And so when we are in classrooms and challenging some of those ideas, we are making it, like Ashanti said, we are challenging some of those behaviors and those ideas that have really been normalized and pushing for an unlearning. But in that, we are also opening space and having community engagement and community partners who are not necessarily part of any organization, just folk, right, that in our community who we need to listen to. What are some of the suggestions that you have for us? What are some of the experiences that you have that may be a learning, that may be a learning tool for somebody else for them to share? So having those spaces and having those discussions is really important. And the other thing is that although we are the Women's Leadership Project, is really that we in the classroom are making sure that the young men, the young male identified folks understand that this is not just a girl's issue, but that they really need to understand what intimate partner violence looks like, how they, particularly as young men of color, don't want to wind up at the hands of police, don't want to wind up having to deal with any kind of law enforcement or anything like that. And so just for them too, to understand what healthy relationships look like, as opposed to toxic relationships that they are oh so familiar with already.
Thank you for sharing that. You all are doing some great work. And thank you for sharing some of your work with us. I do want to talk now about where are some gaps that you see that exist? Gaps that if you had the funding, if you had more manpower, if you had more time, that you would love to address. Gaps that you see in the community in regards to young survivors as well as any other survivors.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite questions. I think all of us, because we just go, if money wasn't a thing, right? If it wasn't that we had to be in competitive grant writing situations, if it was just like, what could we do? And all of this work that we are talking about, what we do and us being in classroom and what have you, we would like to be able to have an actual facility where we could provide all of the resources kind of under one roof. So we could help with folks who are dealing with intimate partner violence right there. We could be a safe space, that we could help folks who are experiencing food insecurity, who are experiencing shelter insecurity, all of those kinds of things. And just to have, there aren't a lot of teen centers, youth centers, period, in the areas that we service. So to have something like that, to have those, and not just for the Women's Leadership Project, but for there to be multiple, several, right? So that there is a center and there are safe spaces that are not just the school campuses for young people to gravitate to and to be safe in, because what we know is that lots of trouble happens in those hours after school, right? That's when lots of things happen. You can use your imagination as to what those things are, but if there are safe spaces for teens to gravitate to make relationships at that place, that's one of the things that we would like to do. We would also really like to have folks that are stationed on campuses throughout LA Unified School District and the other surrounding school districts here in the areas that we serve. We're only a few people, so our hands only go so far. But if we were able to have someone on campus, and so this is part of just the curriculum in our schools, period, that would be something that we would strive for. And really, one of my hopes for the work is that we don't have to do the work anymore. Right. I think that's always our end game, is that I don't want to have a job like this, right? Because that would mean that our communities were healthy and whole, and we took advantage of things like therapy, and that we took advantage of having intergenerational relationships, that we took advantage of the programming in school. It would mean that we were healthy. Right. But in the meantime, we need more hands to be able to do the work to get us there.
I wanted to piggyback off of something that Ms. Tamari said in the last question. I know that we are the Women's Leadership Project, but definitely having male support also. Of course, we work great. We are the best, okay? The best organization when we work together as all Black females, but I feel like we need to definitely have a male perspective and a male support, because there's only so much that we as women can tell young Black men. I feel like there needs to be someone that is, first of all, supports the work that we do, and not just, oh, I want to be here because, whatever, but definitely someone who's actually interested and very much supports what the work that we do. Because I know when I used to do the in-person classroom meetings, it was a lot of pushback from the Black males. They're like, why are they having this? Why am I here? Why am I listening to all of this? So definitely to be able to have a Black male figure, or even a couple Black male figures, that would be very beneficial to all the work that we already do together.
And just to make sure, I just want to share that in our classrooms, again, the 9th grade classrooms, some of the most enthusiastic participants are the young Black male identifying youth at the school at King Drew and at the other schools that we go to. And that gives me hope, because we don't have any Black men that we know that just come on board consistently. And that's what Ashanti is bringing up. And she makes a very valid point. And with that, to dovetail that idea that we do have some very enthusiastic young men coming through the ranks in our schools, that while they do give pushback with actual education and just, I want to say, just nourishing, once we're able to talk and have that communication, they realize that I'm a mother of many sons, that they're very open and very enthusiastic about wondering how can they become allies.
Thank you. I have another question. So you, Black Skeptics, the Women's Leadership Project, goes into the actual schools. Can you talk to us about, because there are people here who are trying to get tips and trying to figure out how to do things in their own communities. How did you get access to the schools? Like through the administration? Like, what was that process like to get the buy-in from the schools?
It varies from school to school. Unfortunately, just to be transparent, being that we do come in predominantly Black schools, or predominantly Black and brown schools, the unfortunate thing, the LGBTQ plus element that we bring with us and the allyship that we definitely stand for, sometimes is very, it's still not open, there's still not openness to that. It's not inclusive to that. And so sometimes we get pushback. We have gotten a lot of pushback. And the school that we're actually in, we have, again, roots there since before 19, I'm not going to say what year we graduated from, but we have roots that date back to many, many decades. And so we're there and we're consistent there. And still, even with that relationship, we have not been able to be a part of the professional development staff training that we want to give for this work. So one of the ways that I suggest is know that every school is different, and whatever way that there's whatever side way that you need to get in to speak to someone and find your allies in your school system. So there are lots of, while the administration in some schools may not be on board, we have allyship with different teachers, and different teachers will allow us to come into those classrooms and speak. That is outside of anything that's based on the curricular. There's just more than one way to skin a cat, as my grandmother used to say, and the administration is not going to always, and we have yet to experience an open-armed administration to say, yes, welcome, come and teach our children culturally specific education. And that's very unfortunate, because we are really struggling in our inner city schools here. So persistence, consistency, and learning how to navigate what you have already there.
That's just what I was going to say, is to exploit relationships that you already have. And so sometimes we're like, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and it's so big and I don't know how to get in, and I don't know the head person. Well, you don't always have to know the head person or the principal. You may know a teacher, and the teacher says, you know what, on Thursday, I have some time, you can come on into my classroom. Or it may, you have to talk to folk. You have to be willing to share that, hey, this is the work that I do. Do you know anybody? Do you know any groups that would be willing to, to just listen, that I can come in and do an hour with? Are there ways that we can partner? You use relationships that you already have, that you always, that you may kind of just take for granted. Your girlfriend is a teacher. Your neighbor works at an after school, at an after school center or something like that. Take advantage of the network that you have. Let folks know the work that you're doing, because people are interested. We are all, everybody on this call, I assume, is interested in this work. And so you socialize with people who are like-minded, and you need to be able to take advantage of those relationships as well, because those are the folks that'll say, oh, Ujima is putting up another grant, or this is happening. You need to look at this website because this is going on. And so as long as you are nurturing those relationships that you already have, we have an army of folks that are willing and able to do the work and to help us with this work.
Great tips. Thank you. I have this question for Ashanti. As a youth leader, what do you see as a need from adults to better reach young survivors?
Just kind of to go back just a little bit to hold that space, to be non-judgmental, and to be open-minded. I feel like a lot of adults aren't necessarily open-minded, and a lot of youth aren't open-minded as well. Just to create that space, number one, create that space where youth and the adults are in some way comfortable, because it's talking about certain things like domestic violence is uncomfortable, or sexual violence is uncomfortable, but to know that I'm in a room with adults that are letting me express how I feel without censoring me or telling me don't say that, or that's not right, you shouldn't feel like that. I would say as a youth, that makes me feel good, walking into rooms where they're like, we want to hear from you, we really want to know what we can do, how can we help you? And then not only talk about it, but actually put the work in to do so. That's my biggest thing with a lot of things that I'm in. Like, okay, we talk about this stuff, but what are we going to do? And that's one thing I like about WOP. Like, we'll hold sessions, we'll hold meetings and stuff, but as soon as it's over, we're getting right to business. So definitely having that space, talking about it, and doing the work.
Thank you. Does anyone else have maybe any other tips for other people that might be interested in engaging in youth?
Be consistent. One of my favorite teachers, she used to say that when you are teaching a child to read, a child is also reading you. So our youth are very observant and they want consistency. They want transparency. Again, I don't advise going in trying to be a youth. Understand your role as an elder, understand your role as a leader. While there is no judgment, perhaps there's structure that will be there. While there's no judgment, there has to be some type of structure, and continue to be yourself unapologetically and be consistent, because they're not always going to want to be around you. They're always not going to want to seek advice, but to know that you're there and you're consistent, I think speaks volumes. And that's one of the things that I again admire WLP for allowing us to be consistent. Every quarter, you're going to have a rally. Every quarter, you're going to have an institute with WLP, and they know we're there. They may not make it that time, but they're going to be there for the next one. And that's what our community, that's a culturally specific thing that our community needs: consistency and loyalty. And we spoke about that. I think the other speakers were talking about that. We require loyalty because you have to know who you're dealing with in order for you that trust and that vulnerability to be there.
And I would just say really having that listening ear, just know that I'm here to listen and to validate your experiences, right? Because we have a commonality of being people of color, specifically being Black women in these United States, right? So there is a common thread. But like Jessica mentioned, I graduated a long time ago. I graduated in the 90s. And so although, hip hop then had misogynistic overtones a lot of the times, I have to understand that they're not listening to the same things that I was listening to, but I can tell them about how I grew and hear those lyrics differently and challenge them then to listen to lyrics, maybe if we're talking about hip hop or something like that, to listen to it more critically and just encourage them, right? I don't have to be all engaged in some of the toxic relationships, but I should know who's Blueface and Krishan. I should know some of those things that are really big in the pop culture. I just need to be aware of some of the names, not everybody, but every once in a while need to be able to drop a name, to drop something, so that you know that we are not just dismissive of your generation, that I'm not just dismissive of TikTok or dismissive of Instagram, but that we are going to use those platforms as well and say, hey, why don't you follow us as well while you're scrolling, right? One of the things that you need to do, you like to listen to podcasts, it may be some craziness, but you can also listen to Virtual Homegirls podcast. So we try to get in and be on some of the levels that they will be responsive to, right? So that they know that we're not just the old fogies that don't know nothing about what's going on, right? But we have to have some buy-in. We have to have some buy-in. And that only starts with us listening to what it is that they're telling us in those classrooms, listening to when Ashanti and the other interns are talking to us. We just had a pool party over the weekend. And for us just to kind of be observant and listen to some of the other conversations that are going on and pop in, not take over that conversation, but pop in, hear a little bit, add a tidbit, and go on over here, right? So that they know that we are here to support them, but we are also here to affirm that their experiences are their own. And like I said, we are really, as the adults here, just to kind of hold up these young people so that they in turn can do that for the next generation that's coming after them.
Awesome. You mentioned the podcast. And so I was wondering, I know you have this amazing newsletter, and at the end, I want you to give all your contact informations and your shout outs, because I know a lot of people will want to connect with you after this. So you mentioned the podcast. that I didn't know about, so I need to start listening. And I get your newsletter. What other technology ways are you utilizing to connect the youth? Because sometimes, you know, us old folks are like, we immediately are like, oh, we need to get on TikTok. And then we look all corny and the kids are like, what the heck? So what, what technology and what tools have you been successful in connecting with youth and or creating awareness and connecting with survivors?
We have an Instagram page also, Instagram that people follow. So this is not my bailiwick, right? Because I'm going to definitely defer to Ashanti, but we do have the podcast. We have Instagram. I do not believe we have TikTok, but they are trying to teach me how to use that. And at least I'm calling it TikTok now. I was calling it Ticky Tacky or something originally. So I'm in them, but we're doing that. We, my background is in theater arts, so we're incorporating the theater arts part piece to the WLP, and with that is that I understand is not what it was so many years ago. So that I have to get into the editing and the social media, because that's they coincide with this generation. And so one of the things that WLP interns are doing is actually educating me, and I am at liberty to learn. So as we developed our performing arts piece, we are they're teaching me a lot about that. And so you will be you'll have that more. That's a big piece that I'm excited about as we intertwine the two generations. But that's something that editing the podcast, the also music with the arts. We have a music video that's out there by the under the Standing for Black Girls Coalition. They all participated in a wonderful music video. The song was written by our founder, Dr. Hutchinson, and they were out there teaching me how to dance and everything in the music video. So the music video is out there. There's that I'm gonna again turn it over to Ashanti, because that's not my cup of tea. But that I can say from the experience of that is there, is growing, and I've called social media a necessary evil in the past, and I meant it, but it's there, and I'm learning about it. So we're doing what we got to do.
Everything Ms. Jessica said, the Instagram, the podcast, the I'm not sure you mentioned it earlier, but the publications that we get to do, I think that's one of my favorite parts. Writing about what we want regarding specific topics. I know I have a couple of articles on the website. My favorite one I wrote was about dating in college. And no, actually, no, I take that back. I didn't write that. I actually was able to be on the radio to read that. I actually have to type that out, but I do have a couple articles on the website. I think that's one of my favorite parts because I like to write. And a lot of youth, another youth, I wish she could have been here today. She's awesome. She writes, she has a lot of articles as well. I feel like that's another outlet as well, being able to write about what we want. Of course, we have to center it on a topic, but being able to just an op-ed, as we call it, like, you know, so being able to do that, I feel like that definitely connects the youth, because I know when you see published articles, you're like, oh, that's only for like people that are doctors or people who have like these credentials or anything, but we have that opportunity to literally type up an article and you can look up our name and that's the first thing that pops up, something that we wrote. So that's one of my favorite things that connects the youth. And then of course the Instagram, that's where a lot of our information has come from. And yeah, the newsletter, I check my email, like I check my text messages. So I stay in my emails. That, like you said, the newsletter definitely is helpful. Hopefully we can get a TikTok going. I feel like we should definitely do that, and we definitely are going to do that, you know, but yeah, everything that she said was basically what we do.
And we also have artists who are creating visual art that they put out there in the community. There's a website in works for selling the activism shirts, the shirts that say Standing for Black Girls, that are handmade by, or custom made by our interns. So they're out there. We like to say sometimes with Standing for Black Girls, they out here in these streets. So they doing their thing.
Love it. I have one last question for you. What are your hopes in doing this work, and how can we uplift Black leadership and the emerging Black leaders, the youth?
I'm a big fan of networking and collaborating with different organizations to do the same work that we do. I think that's important because, you know, the more people you have, the more crowd you have, the more work can be done, and it can be done efficiently and faster. So definitely pairing with other organizations within the community. I know we have a lot of partnerships within the community. They're a little on the older side, but if we can find more organizations that are youth led, I definitely think we can beat this, you know, Black people not being not having resources, or not being looked upon, or having to work harder than our counterparts. If we work together, we work better as a corporate than we do individually. So definitely just working with other people who do the same work that we do will be very, very helpful.
I think one of the ways that we uplift our emerging leaders is just like what we're doing right now. I am so proud of Ashanti, you know, just letting her take the reins and take the lead and explain. That is what Black leadership looks like. That's what the emerging leadership looks like. And it's just for us to kind of say, hey, these are some of the structures, these are some of the tools that you can add to your tool belt, but you can get out there and do this work, right? Our founder initially brought it to us, and, you know, to get in your head and be nervous or what have you. And I promise, I look to Ashanti and a couple of our other interns that are usually participating, and they just go. They have no fear. Or at least they don't show it. We had conversations with our deputy mayor last week, and I tell you, I just kind of sat back like this and didn't have to say much because they let it. They know what the work is, and so it's really about giving room to young folk and say, hey, we're turning the country over to y'all. It's on you, right? I didn't understand that as much when I was a young person, but you grow up and then you have to be part of the machine, and you have to figure out what place you are in that machine. And I am just really, really thankful that I get to see and I get to help the next generation of folks that are going to fuel this machine and lead us in really good ways, because they are critically thoughtful. They are they're questioning. They push back. They don't just sit in the corner and say, oh, we're going to do what somebody told us to do. They have questions, they want answers, and they are doing the work to get the answers as well.
Awesome. Okay,
Hey,
so
Bill,
oh yes.
I'm sorry. In our classrooms, all the talk that I've said about the classrooms, in our classrooms, peers are there, our interns are there. Some of them are able to come out of their classrooms, and they are facilitating these awkward conversations with their own peer groups too.
Awesome. Thank you. We have 1 minute. So I want you all to let everyone know how they can contact Black Skeptics, how they can listen to the podcast, get on the newsletter, donate, be a part.
All right, so in the chat, Tamari Cook has already put our IG at WLP Project _ our website, www.Women's Leadership Project LA. You definitely have to put that LA in there because a whole bunch of stuff will come up. la.org, www.womensleadership.org. We are on the website. Our personal emails are on the website with their beautiful pictures are on the website. And we check this is what we do daily. We are able to do that on behalf of Ujima, to check my emails all day for the Women's Leadership Project now. Any other questions? Feel free to send us through the website. When you send an email through the website, I automatically access it. That's my point. There we go.
Awesome. If you need help from Ujima or support or want to learn more about our work, please visit our website, ujimacommunity.org. That's UJIMA community.org. You can request technical assistance, sign up our email list, learn more about our work and how you can connect with us. I thank you all for your time. I thank Black Skeptics. I truly appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your methods and your hopes and your dreams with this group today. I thank you all for the opportunity for having us here today. I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful LaVon Morris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That Virtual Homegirls podcast, I have to look that up. I like that name. It's very intriguing. Thank you all for that great information and the awesome work you were doing out in LA. My goodness. Yes, as the community engagement person here, I definitely, Kalyn, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to have to look them up to see how we can all collaborate to some degree. But I hope to our audience that you were really listening to how this awesome organization, culturally specific organization in the Black community, is doing the work regardless of the lack of resources, but the fact that they still need these resources. We can figure out how to make that happen. So once again, thank you. As we come to our closing, what a great way to leave us energized with the awesome tips that was given and how we can work to implement, what we heard today and reach out to them. So with that, thank you all again. We will move to our closing. Before you leave today's session, please be sure to complete the evaluation. We could really use that so we'll know how to provide more information to you in the coming weeks or months as we do this work. Your feedback is important to us. And now I'm going to turn the floor over to our awesome town hall weaver, Monet Johnson.
Thank you so much. Today has been really, really wonderful. I've really enjoyed sharing spaces with you all. I've learned so much on our first session about supporting Black survivors and our second session about meaningful partnerships. I hope that everyone leaves today with some tangible ways to support Black survivors. I hope that you're able to show some care for the folks in your communities or people at your organizations. And so thank you for that. And most importantly, I hope that everyone takes care of themselves tonight. Whatever came up in your body or in your spirit from the conversations today, I hope you prioritize whatever you need for you tonight. And so thank you again for letting me open and close with you today. And if there's anything I want you all to do is go soak up some words from June Jordan, if you enjoyed that poem. And please remember to keep using the Padlet. And that's all. Thank you, everyone.